At 6:45 p.m. inside the Golden One Center, I'm walking the concourse 15 minutes before tip-off of a new era of Sacramento Kings basketball, and the buzz was great. Vibes were awesome. Fans very excited to see Zach LaVine play for the Sacramento Kings for the first time. And then the second half happened, and maybe cold, harsh reality smacked this franchise and fan base straight in the face. The Kings have their LaVine New Era debut spoiled by the Orlando Magic, where old problems didn't go away and continued to haunt this franchise. We'll break it all down right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And I'm not lying to you when I'm saying I have not been outside of the Golden One Center since 9 o'clock this morning. I have been in this building all day long, from Monte McNair's press conference to Zach LaVine's press conference to this game here tonight. It has been a long and tiring but fun day that unfortunately ended in one of the worst ways possible, with the Sacramento Kings getting dominated 130-111 by the Orlando Magic. This is my second podcast that I am recording today. If you missed my first one from earlier, it featured all of the best moments from Monte McNair's press conference and Zach LaVine's press conference, as well as kind of my thoughts and my breakdown on some of the things, the good and bad, that Kings general manager Monte McNair had to say. So you can go and check that out. This press conference will focus primarily on, of course, this game here tonight, a little bit at the end on the acquisition of Jonas Valanciunas, which happened this afternoon, literally like 20 minutes after I finished recording my last podcast, because, of course, that's just how it happens. When you pre-record something, as soon as you're done with it, something else goes live or something else changes, something's different. But I'll talk about the Jonas Valanciunas trade acquisition by the Sacramento Kings towards the end of this podcast here tonight. But like I was saying, there was great vibes. There was great excitement, right? And one of the things I said in my last podcast, it's kind of a relief that even if I was clearly not happy with the return that the Sacramento Kings got for De'Aaron Fox, and even if I was very upset by the Kings firing Mike Brown, like I know you guys almost got annoyed with me at this point, to finally have Monty address the Mike Brown firing and have Monty address the De'Aaron Fox trade, it gives it closure, right? It's over. It's done with. We can still not like it, but at that point, they've addressed it. It's time to like move on. And I felt those vibes. Like I felt about 4 or 5 o'clock, the game's getting closer and closer, and it felt like a refresh, right? Not that this team was suddenly fixed and everything was grand and happy, but there was a departure from the old, a beginning of the new, and a genuine excitement and buzz in this building for Zach LaVine and this new, different era of Kings basketball. I'm not going to overreact to this game tonight and say, oh, see, the Kings suck. They're screwed. It's over. This team's not very good anymore. They lost De'Aaron Fox and all hope went with him to San Antonio. I'm not going to do that because that's a little extreme. That's a little unnecessary. But unfortunately, tonight was kind of like a reality check where, hey, this team is who we thought they were. Or I guess a better way to put it is this team tonight confirmed a lot of the fears we had about this roster, especially on the defensive end. This offense can be very exciting. And there's a lot from tonight's game, and I'll break it down a little bit later, but there's a lot from tonight's game offensively that I can forgive and chalk up to, hey, you're trying to incorporate Zach LaVine. You're trying to figure each other out. There's a lot offensively from this game that I can forgive or feel good about this team improving upon. Defensively, this team's atrocious, right? And they were tonight. They've been it for a while, and I like Zach LaVine. I know Zach LaVine's not a good defender. I don't expect Zach LaVine to come in and make the Sacramento Kings defense much worse, but I didn't at all expect Zach LaVine to come in and make the Sacramento Kings defense any better, right? And that's the reality of where we're at. Guess what? You got beat tonight by an Orlando Magic team that is chock full of size and length. Believe it or not, that problem still doesn't just go away the more you continue to not address it. Again, the Kings did trade for Jonas Valanciunas, to be fair, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the podcast. But I'll be quite frank with you, Jonas Valanciunas would not have saved the Sacramento Kings from what happened in this game, especially from the perimeter. But look, for 3 seasons, this has been the problem. I've talked about it over and over again, and I'll continue to talk about it until the Kings actually do something about it. Right? They get killed. Look at the length and size of this Magic team. There was a lineup at one time where they had Franz Wagner playing the 2 because they could, because they had guys like Paolo Banchero and Wendell Carter Jr. and Jonathan Isaac out there with him. Right? For a team like Sacramento that's undersized at every position, that is a nightmare scenario. But it's nothing new to them. They can't claim they were caught off guard. This has been an issue for 3 years that they've continuously failed to address. Look, Keon Ellis is a fantastic defender, one of the best defenders on the team. We love Keon Ellis. 6'2" Keon Ellis was trying to stop 6'10's Franz Wagner. As good of a defender as Keon Ellis is, a 6'10" dude can shoot over the top of a 6'2" dude relatively easily. And that doesn't even include, of course, the games or the moments where Franz Wagner was getting wide open threes, even though he was red hot, especially in that third quarter. Franz Wagner tonight, 31 points, 5 of 6 from three-point range. Keegan Murray's pretty much the only guy that you can throw at Franz. And if Keegan's having a rough night or is not getting the best of that matchup, well, Keegan also has a lot of primary defensive responsibilities on trying to slow down Paolo Banchero, who's cooking, especially in the first half. Like, Keegan can't be 2, 3, 4 places at once. Again, Keon's a good defender. I don't blame Keon Ellis for this, but he's 6'2". What the hell do you want him to do against a 6'10" guy like Franz? You're screwed because you don't have enough depth at that position, and that's been the issue with this team for, again, years that they have failed to address. It was one of the things that De'Aaron Fox was asking for and pointing out in his time here in Sacramento that wasn't addressed. But look, the Orlando Magic three-point shooting shouldn't be surprising to anybody because we've seen it before, right? I know the Magic are the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA. They came into tonight's game last in the NBA in three-point percentage, around like 30% on average per game as a team. Really, really bad. Anybody surprised that they came in and torched the Sacramento Kings, shot 16 of 31, 51.6% from three-point range? The answer should be no, because they did the same freaking thing in this building last season. I don't remember if they were 30th in the NBA in three-point percentage, but they were damn sure one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league last year, and they came into the Golden One Center. They're one game a year inside the Golden One Center, and last year the Magic shot 25 of 44, 56.8% from three. 2 years in a row where Orlando comes into Sacramento and suddenly figures out how to shoot. Suddenly they have a great shooting night. Why? Because, one, they have all the confidence in the world against the Sacramento Kings. They know they're going to get their good looks, and confidence means everything to a shooter. And two, because they know they're going to get 6'10" guys that can shoot over the top of 6'2", 6'3" guys. It's easy. It's like a warm-up jumper at this point with how atrocious the Sacramento Kings three-point defense is. I asked interim head coach Doug Christie about the three-point defense and about why so many teams like the Magic come into the Golden One Center and light the Kings up. Here's what Doug had to say. This is the second year in a row where Orlando's come into Golden One Center as one of the worst three-point shooting teams and then had these monster three-point shooting nights. How much of that is confidence-driven, and why does it seem like so many opponents come into here with the confidence that they'll be able to shoot well?
I mean, just like Arco, this is a good shooting gym. So that's part of it, but we have to make them feel us. That's another part of it. When I saw the statistics of where they were in three-point shooting, I immediately said, take that off the board. Nah, we're not showing that because you got to show them respect. They're professionals. And at this level, anybody can knock down shots. You have to show them a level of respect. You have to close out with a sense of urgency, with a stick hand. You got to jump to contest, not foul them. And then you have to rebound the basketball. And there were many times where we're just watching the ball bounce. Like, those are the things that for me are non-negotiables. Like, we not negotiating on that one. Those are effort plays, and we got to come up with them.
So this is the 19th game that Doug has been the interim head coach. Hard to believe it's already been 19 games. Crazy. 19 games as interim head coach. And here are the top 8 highest point totals allowed for the Kings in those 19 games. To be clear, I don't put this all on Doug Christie. I put very little of this on Doug Christie, actually. I know Doug Christie is a defensive-minded coach. I watched many times. In fact, Sean Cunningham from Fox 40 captured it on a video a number of times. You can go to his Twitter account and check it out. A very agitated and frustrated Doug Christie with his team's defensive effort. But here are 8 games under Doug Christie alone, not just this entire season, but under Doug Christie alone with the highest point totals that the Kings have given up. 144, 143, 133, 132, 132, 130 tonight, 130 again before that, and 127. The Sacramento Kings are giving up a boatload of points. Their defense is terrible. And why did anybody expect that to change with the addition of Zach LaVine here? It's unrealistic to think so. I don't even blame Zach. It's not Zach's fault. It's just the construction of this roster. And here's the reality. No savior is walking through that door tomorrow. At noon tomorrow, at the trade deadline, there is nobody that the Kings are going to realistically acquire that is going to walk through that door and make a drastic change to how this Kings team plays on the defensive end of the floor. This team, this group, as constructed, has to figure it out. They're going to implement Jonas Valanciunas very soon. Hopefully he'll be ready to go. I don't know if he'll be ready tomorrow against Portland, but hopefully he'll be ready to go soon. I do know for a fact, and I'll talk about this more later, that the Kings are still looking to add more and do more, but it's not realistic to expect anything else major that the Kings are going to do at this trade deadline to help fix this problem. This roster is who they are. They are who they are. It is what it is. They have to figure it out as a group, and they have to do it on the fly in the middle of a really tight Western Conference playoff race with very little wiggle room. It's the reality of the situation. They have to figure it out. Let's talk about Zach LaVine's debut really, really quick. To be honest with you, it was a poor debut. It wasn't inspiring. It wasn't all that exciting. It was disappointing. Offensively, he scored 13 points, shot 4 of 13 from the field, 0 of 4 from three-point range. I'll get to that more in a second. 5 of 6 from the free throw line, so we got to the foul line, converted for the most part there. That's good. 3 assists and 1 steal. It's just one game. Again, the offensive things and the way he looked disjointed, he fumbled a couple of Domantas Sabonis passes, like getting understanding where to get guys the ball and where to receive the ball from them and how to move and flow in this kind of free-flowing read and react Kings offense. That's going to take time. I'm really not that worried about that end of the floor. I'm not. Defensively, though, I watched Zach LaVine get cooked over and over and over again. He wasn't alone. There were multiple guys. In fact, pretty much everybody on this roster got cooked at one point or another, most of them multiple times tonight. But I watched Zach LaVine get blown by on the perimeter a number of times. I also watched Zach LaVine look completely lost when the Kings went to Doug Christie's 2-3 zone. LaVine didn't know what the hell he was doing. And again, that I have confidence in he's going to figure out or at least understand a little bit better of what he's supposed to do. But understanding and executing, those are two very different things. And while I do think there are elements of Zach's game where he is a little underrated defensively, he's not going to suddenly become this great defender playing for Doug Christie here in Sacramento. It's not going to happen. I thought Zach LaVine's overall debut tonight was disappointing. It's not the end of the world. Doesn't mean he sucks. Doesn't mean it was a terrible trade or anything like that. It's just the reality of this game was not the best. And if this is not the most Kangs freaking you-know-what BS on the planet, I don't know what is. Zach LaVine came into tonight and was traded to the Sacramento Kings as a 44% three-point shooter this season. And I warned you, man, I was like, it would be the most Kings thing ever because we've seen it in the past. These hot shooters coming to Sacramento, and unless they're playing for the other team, they just forget how to shoot. Right? We can see team after team after team coming into the Golden One Center and cook the Kings from three-point range when they're against them. But as soon as they put on that Kings purple and try and shoot in this gym, duds. This stat was put out by Brendan Nunez, and it just made me laugh. This is just the second time this season that Zach LaVine hasn't had a single made three in a game. That is the most Kings you-know-what. It's not at all surprising. It's just like, whether it's basketball gods or the colors the Kings are wearing or just the curse of being a freaking Sacramento King, I don't know what the hell it is. And I'm not saying that he's going to be a terrible three-point shooter for the remainder of the season. But also, if he shot 30% for the remainder of the season as a Sacramento King, I would not be shocked at all, given the Kings' history. Least surprising thing on the planet to see Zach LaVine go 0 of 4 from three-point range in his Kings debut. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Robinhood and Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates are subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based off of data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. So I've had this feeling brewing for the last couple of days, really since the De'Aaron Fox trade was finalized. Like, I've had this thought, and I was kind of bouncing it around like, is that real, or is that just me trying to make things overly dramatic, which, as you know, I can do that from time to time. But watching it tonight, it was like a confirmation that I'm on the right track. I think, and this is a lot of pressure to put on the man, I think the season rests on Malik Monk. I think the Sacramento Kings' success for this season and whether or not they make the playoffs and actually do something in the playoffs completely rests on the shoulders of Malik Monk. That's not to say that DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis and all these guys are not important. Of course they are. But Malik is the key, right? He's been given the keys to this offense. And what did we see in today's game when Malik Monk got in foul trouble? The Kings completely fell apart. Malik only played 4 minutes in the second half, y'all. 4 minutes in the second half because he had 5 fouls by like the 2-minute mark of the third quarter. In the time in the second half before Doug Christie pulled his entire starting unit and all his main guys and waved the white flag with 8 minutes remaining, by the way, at home. 8 minutes remaining. Fans paying their hard-earned money to come here to the Golden One Center. And I know tickets are not cheap right now. Nothing's cheap in freaking California right now. But tickets for the Golden One Center are not cheap. They're not. Especially for a game like tonight where I know it's the Orlando Magic, not the most exciting of opponents, but it's a debut night. It's expensive to come to the Golden One Center and watch a Kings game. I'm very fortunate to not have to do that, but I've paid for family members, paid for friends. I understand. I get it. And they saw their head coach pull all their main players with 8 minutes to go. I don't necessarily blame Doug Christie for it because the Kings were down 30 at that point. But goodness, talk about wanting to defend your home floor and make this a tough place to play, defend your house, and you're pulling your starters with 8 minutes remaining. Yikes. But anyway, going back to Malik Monk. Before Doug Christie waved the white flag with 8 minutes remaining, the Kings were being outscored 55-28 in the second half. And again, only 4 of those minutes up until the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter. So what is that? 16 minutes total? 12 of those 16 minutes, Malik Monk was off the floor, and the Kings were outscored 55-28 before Christie waved the white flag. When Malik Monk is not on the floor, this Kings team's offensive facilitator is like, they just don't have it, right? And maybe that's something where like Zach LaVine can hopefully kind of turn into that a little bit. But while he's capable of getting his own shot, and he had a couple of moments where he had some dimes and some good passes to Domantas Sabonis in particular, like that's not Zach's game. And this is where Malik Monk is completely taking the reins from De'Aaron Fox. Right? When you had Fox and Monk, you had two guys that could penetrate at all times and draw the defense in and kick out to shooters or move the ball around and zip the ball around. It's only Monk for this team right now. Devin Carter ain't it, right? And I'm not writing the kid off altogether. He's a rookie behind the 8 ball because he had shoulder surgery and started this season late. Devin Carter's not holding those minutes down. And Zach LaVine's brand new to this team, brand stinking new in the offense, and you're expecting him to run the offense for heavy minutes on a night where Malik Monk gets into foul trouble. Now, Malik's not going to get into this kind of foul trouble every single night. But on nights where he does, or knock on wood, God forbid, Malik Monk gets hurt again and misses any period of time, this Kings team is screwed. This is why I say, like, Malik Monk is going to be the engine that makes the Sacramento Kings go and play at full capacity. His two-man game with Domantas Sabonis is the best thing that the Kings have going for themselves offensively, and he's going to be able to draw attention and get the ball to Zach LaVine, who loves the opportunity to catch and shoot. A lot of Zach LaVine's shots were off the dribble in this game. He loves catch and shoot opportunities. Malik Monk is going to be a guy to open that up a lot for him. Of course, getting the ball to DeMar DeRozan and DeMar's spots. Malik is at the center. Malik is at the foundation of all of that. So when Malik is not on the floor, this Kings team's got to figure something out. In fact, I asked both Domantas Sabonis and Doug Christie about how the team can help make up for those minutes when Malik is out. And here's what they said. Domas, it seems like with Fox gone, Malik has a lot of responsibility on him just as a facilitator and as the ball handler. On a night like tonight where he gets into foul trouble or he's off the floor, how can you or your teammates, I guess, do a better job of keeping the offensive flow going when he gets that break?
Yeah, of course. In moments like that, I talked to Zach a bit there. I said, when Malik's off the court, like, you have to be the PG, create, it's all new for all of us. It's just the first game. We're going to watch film and, we're all going to get used to each other, and I think it's going to work amazing.
Malik has obviously a lot more responsibility upon himself now as a floor general and facilitator. On a night like tonight where he gets in foul trouble or, God forbid, he's out with injury or anything like that, how can the rest of the team do a better job of continuing to facilitate, get downhill, touch the paint like he does so well?
See, like even that, because like he goes out of the game, Zach's in the game, and now we're saying you never run the offense and you got to figure it out. So that's where we play through DeMar. We can also play through Domas, and that's the flow part of it. There are a couple sets that we can get into, but even the sets is like there's many things that I can tell you, but I know from playing that when you're out there, it's a read, and that's how I want them to play. I don't want them to run plays. I want them to learn how to play, and there's a big difference in that.
This kind of continues with Malik Monk as a facilitator, but just in general with this Kings team, even when Malik was playing, the half-court offense was not good. The ball was way too sticky, meaning the ball was not moving around. It was a lot of isolation, a lot of guys going one-on-one, shooting off the dribble. And while the Kings do have good isolation scorers, especially DeMar DeRozan, if they do that over and over again, or that is the primary source of their offense, it's easy to defend, especially for a longer team like the Orlando Magic. It came back to kill the Kings. The Kings made 40 total shots in this game. That's not a high number, but it's whatever. Only 23 of those 40 made baskets were assisted. That's really low for this Kings team. That's not great. DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine need to do a better job tonight of moving the ball around. Again, like I mentioned, LaVine had a couple of good assists, but the ball got sticky with both of them in particular. And I think I'm a little extra disappointed because I know they haven't played together for 3 months. But those two guys are the most familiar with each other, more than any other guy that Zach LaVine's going to play with. And the two of them did not really look cohesive tonight. Again, these are things that I expect can and will change. These are things that I'm not overly concerned about compared to like the defense, for example, or compared to the minutes when Malik Monk is off the floor. These are the things I think the Kings will correct and fix and will get better over time. But tonight, they were really bad. The half-court offense tonight was not good. And transition is going to be really important for this Kings team too. And of course, when you're not getting stops because you're not playing defense, it's hard to get out in transition. And this Kings team is not good defensively, which means their transition opportunities are going to be limited. They had just 12 fast break points in this game. Also, the Kings were not doing a very good job taking care of the basketball. They turned the ball over 19 times, leading to 28 points for the Orlando Magic. So a lot of things to look at the film, a lot of things to ultimately clean up. Again, most of these things are things I do believe that they will be able to figure out. But the Malik Monk stuff, when he's off the floor, the defense, it's got a long way to go. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Game Time. If you're looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache, let's be honest. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier, and this is the way that it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all of the hard work for you. All you do is find the event you want to go to, and Game Time Picks will curate the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. Whether it's a game here in the Golden One Center to see the Sacramento Kings and Zach LaVine in person, an event if you're out traveling, like if you're thinking about going to spring training, get your spring training tickets on Game Time, or if you're ever in Vegas and want to see one of the concerts or shows in Las Vegas, get those tickets on Game Time. You'll find amazing deals with the Game Time Picks feature. Plus, if you're going into these venues that you've never been in before, they have the most accurate seat views that you're going to find anywhere else, so you know exactly what your view is going to be looking like of a field or court or stage or whatever the case may be. And plus, you are covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they will refund you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So there was an extra buzz before tonight's game, too, because fans were very excited, and rightfully so, in my opinion, about the acquisition of Jonas Valanciunas. This is a guy that I told you a week or so ago. Keep your eye on. It made a lot of sense for the Kings to go out and target him. The Kings targeted him, and they used their assets correctly to go out and get him. I have been very critical of this front office. I will continue to be very critical of this front office. However, I think this is a fantastic move by this front office. Applaud Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox. I like this move, and I hope it can actually make a legitimate, noticeable difference for this team going forward. I like that the Kings acquired Jonas Valanciunas for Sidy Cissoko. Poor kid. Sidy Cissoko traded from the San Antonio Spurs, comes here to Sacramento, spoke to media at shoot-around today, was then traded to Washington, who is expected to waive him. I feel so bad for the kid. Hopefully he lands on his feet somewhere and gets an opportunity. But you got Jonas Valanciunas in Sacramento for Sidy Cissoko and 2 second-round picks. Those 2 second-rounders are the 2028 Denver second-round pick that you got from the San Antonio Spurs as part of the Fox trade, and the Kings' own 2029 second-round pick. Also, in order to get Valanciunas and take on his $9 million per year salary, or at least for this year, they used most of their mid-level exception, which would have gone away, would have expired. That is not the same thing as their $16 million trade exception that they got as part of the De'Aaron Fox deal. So, to kind of describe or explain to you what that is, that trade exception essentially means that the Kings can go out and trade for a player that is at or under $16 million. They can use that trade exception to be able to absorb that player into their cap without going over the top of the cap, or they can go over the top of the cap worth that amount without it counting against the cap. So it gives you a little bit of relief essentially, but you cannot add on to that $16 million, right? So you can't have a $16 million trade exception, then trade away that plus an $8 million per year player to take on, what would that be? 16 plus 8, math is bad, $24 million of salary, right? That's not, or no, it's, yeah, $24 million of salary. That's not how it works, right? You can only take a player with that trade exception that's a $16 million per year or less player. So that's something that the Kings could use at the trade deadline before noon tomorrow. However, this trade exception lasts for a full year. So the Kings don't have to use it right now. It doesn't go away if they don't use it at the trade deadline. They can use it this summer. They can use it during next season. So we'll see if they decide to use it or not, but that's just something to keep an eye out on. I really like this move for Sac, bringing in Jonas Valanciunas. There's a couple things in particular I like about it. Number one, you definitely could have used Jonas Valanciunas tonight. Now, here's the reality too. Jonas Valanciunas would not have stopped the Orlando Magic from shooting 50% from three-point range they shot tonight. He wouldn't have. Jonas Valanciunas is not going to change your perimeter defense. What he is going to do, he's going to protect the paint. And one thing the Orlando Magic did to open up that three-point shooting is they established themselves in the paint, especially early on. They had like 20 or so points in the paint in like the first 12, 13, 14 minutes of this game. They were attacking the rim and establishing themselves down low early. Having Jonas Valanciunas in that physical presence is going to help with that 100%. The perimeter defense, though, no, Jonas Valanciunas is not going to help with that. It also gives the Kings a clear backup center, right? No disrespect to Alex Len or Orlando Robinson, who's no longer on the team but was earlier in the season, right? Jonas Valanciunas is a true, bona fide NBA caliber center. And he's going to be able to give you 12 to however many minutes you need of backup minutes off the bench so that Domantas Sabonis can get a legitimate rest and doesn't have to play 38 to 40 minutes a night. That's going to be a big deal for the Kings. That's a really, really big deal. He's going to be able to fill in for that Sabonis spot. And I'm not saying he's going to be able to do what Sabonis does, running the offense through him, having him facilitate and pass like he does, but he's a damn good rebounder. He's a physical brick wall. And of course, he and Sabonis are very familiar with each other. They're teammates for the Lithuanian national team, or were teammates for the Lithuanian national team. So this is a good deal. This is a good move by the Sacramento Kings. I'm hoping that he will be available and ready to go. There are some people, there is a belief amongst the Kings organization that potentially Valanciunas and Domantas Sabonis could work together on the floor at the same time. It's not to the extreme where the Kings would consider starting the two of them. I don't think that would work at all. But there could be stretches of 3-4 minutes at a time where you have both of them on the floor together. It would require Domantas Sabonis to space the floor and knock down that three at the rate that he's been shooting it, maybe at an even higher volume. And then defensively, hopefully Domantas Sabonis could guard the perimeter a little bit because teams are going to try and spread you out if you have both of them on the floor. I'm a little skeptical about how well it will work, but there are people in this organization that do believe that the two of them can coexist for at least short bursts of time. So that doesn't mean that Jonas Valanciunas is only going to play when Domantas Sabonis is off the floor. But I like this move for Sacramento. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Today was another wild trade day around the NBA. This is Super Bowl week, y'all, and the Super Bowl news-wise is getting dominated. Now, of course, Sunday, when the actual game happens, we know what everybody's going to be doing, and the ratings are going to be off the charts. But this Super Bowl week has been all about the NBA and the NBA trade deadline. Jimmy Butler was traded to the Golden State Warriors and then signed a 2-year extension immediately with the Warriors, worth like $60 million per year. Well, it's a big name, and I don't know if it's going to work out or not in Chase Center, but Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry and Draymond Green, all right. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'm not the biggest believer in it, but what the hell do I know? I guess we'll see if it works. And here's the thing. The Kings are going to see the Warriors 3 more times this season. So we're going to get a pretty good look at it right away. So that'll be something to pay attention to. Brandon Ingram, a name that was connected or floated around the Sacramento Kings for a while. Brandon Ingram is headed to the Toronto Raptors. Interesting landing spot for him. Didn't expect the Raptors to be a home for him or a suitor for him, but guess we'll see how that plays out. Brandon Ingram's been out with injury a lot this season. And then the Los Angeles Lakers decided to just punt on a lot of their future assets because why do they care? They're the Lakers. If they don't have a draft pick, it doesn't matter. They'll just sign a big-name free agent because they're the Los Angeles Lakers and they just have life on easy mode. The Lakers punted their future assets, including like Dalton Knecht and unprotected first-round picks, for Charlotte Hornets center, up-and-coming young center Mark Williams. I like Mark Williams a lot. I actually like this move in a lot of ways for the Lakers short term. They needed a center. They went out and got a pretty good one. So we'll see how that plays out. But once again, the West just keeps getting better and better and better. The Sacramento Kings have to learn how to coexist and figure that out on the fly. Like I said earlier, I do not believe the Sacramento Kings are done. I believe between the time of this recording and noon tomorrow, the Kings will make one more move. I know what they're targeting. They're looking for forward help. They're looking for forwards that can space the floor and shoot threes. Here's what I'll tell you. Do not expect massive names. Do not expect to be blown away or overly excited by any of the names that the Kings are, if it comes out rumored to be going after, if they land any one of them, you're not going to be overly excited. They could, absolutely help this team. And more forward depth of guys 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", this team desperately freaking needs, especially if they can play a little bit of perimeter defense. But I just wouldn't be expecting any fireworks. The fireworks have already happened. Now we'll just see if this team can figure it out and work together. All right, I want to hear from you. Your thoughts on tonight's Zach LaVine debut, your thoughts on the Jonas Valanciunas trade, share them with me at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. After the trade deadline tomorrow, the Kings will be taking on the Trailblazers in Portland. A very winnable game, a good bounce-back opportunity, so hopefully this team looks a little bit better and a little more cohesive tomorrow than they did tonight. I'll have a breakdown for you after that game. If anything big or wild happens at the trade deadline, I might do another 2-podcast day depending upon what happens. More than likely, though, I'll just talk about any other moves or non-moves that the Kings make at the deadline itself on tomorrow night's podcast after the Kings and Trailblazers game. But keep an eye out for more Locked On Kings content. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of the Locked On Kings podcast. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.